And the mighty price that Jesus paid obviously deserves that we communicate the message of God's love as creatively as possible using all the arts. And one who's distinguished herself is Karen Pascal, a filmmaker, 25 years, and all you've contributed 50 different projects. And you've got a major project coming this Saturday that highlights 3 incredible Canadian women. Tell us about it.
Well, Made in Canada is part of the series that Crossroads has commissioned called Heart and Soul. And Made in Canada features 3 amazing women, just like this program has featured some amazing women. But these women are, you know, they're worthy models. They're interesting, and they're making a mark on the international stage. But it's interesting to take a look at their life up close. Made in Canada looks at Cindy Clausen, Dr. Jean Chamberlain-Froese, and also at Misha Bruger-Gossman. And they couldn't be more different, but there are tremendous similarities too. I mean, the similarities for me are, these are women of phenomenal talent. I mean, you know, exceptional talent, but then talent doesn't get you to the front of the line. You know, it takes that kind of discipline, it takes focus, it takes vision.
Right.
And they've got vision for making a difference in the world. And they're interesting how they're wired. Each one a little bit different, you know, but also, you know, a certain amount of drive and passion and compassion. Faith is an important component in them. It's sort of like a center line,
right,
that grounds them and inspires them. And so, I mean, I really hope people will watch on Saturday night, because these ladies are quite awesome.
Well, let's tease by showing the first clip from Cindy, because when they see it, they're going to want to tell their friends to view Saturday night, 7 p.m. on CTS.
I think that's a great idea. Let's look at Cindy. Yes.
Going into the 2006 Olympics, it was very exciting because I knew based off of previous results that season that I could be a contender in most of the races I was going into. Going into the 1500 meter race, I was going to be paired with Annie Friesinger, and she was a dominant force in the 1500 meter. And normally I think I'd be kind of nervous about that just because she's so strong and such a fierce competitor. It ended up being a perfect race. It just felt kind of flawless. And to stand on the podium, to see the Canadian flag being raised, and to sing your national anthem is such an honor.
Not only did Cindy win a gold medal, she won another 4 medals at the 2006 Turin Olympics.
I won bronze in the 3,000 meter, silver in the team pursuit and the 1,000 meter, bronze in the 5,000 meter, and gold in the 1,500 meter. The thing that I really like about this medal, it may sound strange, but I don't know if you can see, but it's starting to tarnish a bit. It's such a great reminder for me that these medals, I'm grateful for them, and it's an honor to be able to win them, but they're all going to rust and pass away, and all that matters is my relationship with Christ and living my life for Him.
Now, Cindy makes Canada very proud. And you also profiled Dr. Jean Chamberlain-Froese.
I did. Now, I just want to say one thing, because I think it's kind of fun about Cindy. She's called Canada's Olympic sweetheart. And you can see why. And when she was in the 2006 Games, where she won 5 medals there, she'd won 1 in the previous Salt Lake City Games, the head of the Games said she was the woman of the Games. Wow. I mean, she along with Clara Hughes are the 2 that have 6 Olympic medals. They are amazing. Outstanding as athletes. But just as outstanding, Dr. Jean Chamberlain-Froese, she is an amazing woman, absolutely amazing, with a vision not just to make things a little better, but literally to change the world for women in the third world.
Well, this fast-moving documentary segues to her. Let's look at this right now.
Each year in Uganda, 7,000 women die of pregnancy-related complications. Save the Mothers is changing that for women like Helen. A cesarean section saved her life and the life of her baby. Now they're both going home.
Well, I think the center line for me is understanding who I am before God, that I'm a person that He has created, that He loves, that He has a purpose for my life. And I think that has really just given me the courage, even in situations that are difficult, to say, you know what, this is what God has called me to do. And it's been fantastic to see the work overseas developing. Sometimes you feel like there's this wind behind you, pushing you and showing you the right direction, because quite frankly, it's a new area. Safe motherhood, we don't know all the solutions yet. Talked about a wise man uses his words carefully. I think the challenges to reaching the goal of no mother or child should die from pregnancy-related complications is really to bring the swell of people who are engaged in safe motherhood to a critical mass in the developing world, so that there's a change in expectation that no mother or child should die.
Karen, how did she impact you?
Oh, I was so impressed by her. I mean, it's interesting because you think, oh, well, I'll go over to Africa and I'll build a hospital, or and in a sense, that's where her vision began as a child. At about 7, she knew she was going to be a missionary doctor. But interestingly enough, to have that kind of vision that you would make a systematic change in a country, where you would raise the level at which women are valued and the care for them is valued, and understanding so deeply that unless we change that, we don't change the world for the children that end up without parents. So Jean was awesome, really awesome.
How did she develop the courage to do that?
I think she had fantastic parents. I think I think early on, her leadership ability was identified. She herself mentioned camp had been an important part in her life. Pioneer Camp had played an important part in developing her as a leader. Very visionary. She has a wonderful husband. He's a journalist. I thought it was so cool that these two people found each other, you know. And at first she said to Tom, you know, well, are you interested in going overseas? And he said, nope. And she knew that was her call. So she said, I crossed him off my list. But eventually, you know, they share this vision in unique ways. I mean, he is a wonderful contributor to the international dialogue of how we can make a difference in other countries of the world. What was fascinating was that all 3 women in my documentary have gone to Uganda. All 3
Wow.
have done something to take their, in a sense, their position and impact in the ways that they can. Cindy went on behalf of CBM, Christian Blind Mission. And the next person we're going to meet, Misha Brugger-Gossman, who is awesome as an opera singer. She's amazing, but also a fabulous personality, bigger than life personality, and certainly a woman who's getting rave reviews on the international stage. I want you to meet Misha Brugger-Gossman.
Let's do that right now.
In 2009, Misha Brugger-Gossman suffered a ruptured aorta and almost died.
I can't really tell you why it happened, but I can tell you how thankful that it happened when it did, because I was in Canada at home. It wasn't until like half a year later when I was on the cover of Chatelaine again, and they had kind of explained what my surgery was, that I really understood how severe and serious it was. I do feel like I would have kept barreling forward in the direction I was going had I not been brought to a screeching halt. And God knows that I am best communicated to in the language of extremes. In the fall of 2009, my husband and I separated. I was very confused about what it was I wanted. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep singing. And you kind of think, well, I don't think this is how I expected to feel. And you realize that you've prioritized the wrong things. Even in moments of clarity, I knew how incredibly blessed I was, but I also knew that there had to be more.
In an effort to control her weight, Misha became a yoga teacher. In the very process of this, her own Christian faith became meaningful and alive.
I just was trying to find a way to have a relationship with God. And what was so attractive about Christianity to me was that all he wants is to commune with me. I was created to have a relationship with Jesus. Like, the only reason we're here is so that he can be with us. It's something that I'd always known, but had never really put together in a truly personal and practical way. And those pieces came together for me. And then the closer I got to God, the closer I got to Marcus, and we reconciled our marriage.
So Karen, she came to faith in Christ. Tell us about that.
Well, she herself tells the story that, you know, in a sense, in her search, obviously there was a deep search going on, and her life was in a process of change. And she was raised in a Christian home, and certainly Brunswick Street United Church played a very important part in her life and in the development of her as a classical performer. But I think the ingredients of her life came together. What was kind of fun for us was that she was, literally 3 weeks later, she had her son, I think his name is Peter Shepherd Bruger Gossman, I think. Anyway, so, you know, she was expecting a baby at that point. I loved what she said when she said, God knows I'm best spoken to in the language of extremes. And I think that's very true for so many of us. And in all their lives, the three women, it wasn't that they didn't have challenges. I mean, Misha almost died. She'd had what they call a mini gastric, so she at one point had been 350 pounds, and she's now just a shadow of herself. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people have major changes, but, you know, God sees us through those changes and becomes real to us in them, which I think is very important. So I found each one so wonderfully different. Each one facing, how do we go from where we are? They ask deep questions, and they feel that responsibility for who they are and for the gifts God has entrusted them with. I go back to Cindy, and I found in Cindy a woman that just, for me, just lights up the screen. She just, there's a life in her that just bubbles up to the surface. She faces one of the greatest challenges that all will face. Sometimes you come to a place where you go, what I'm doing, what I'm famous for, what I'm achieving won't last forever, and it's always what will be the next thing. Right. She faces the challenge. Will she be fast enough and strong enough and ready for the next Winter Olympics 2014, which is going to be in Sochi, Russia? And she's an amazing woman. Dr. Jean Chamberlain-Froese, I mean, they spend 8 months of the year in Uganda with their 3 children. Wow. And they spend the rest of the time here in Canada, and just gathering around them and helping to bring about a force for change in a country is an amazing thing.
Well, I want to encourage mothers to have their daughters watching this Saturday night. I mean, we need role models like this. And, you know, we underestimate the power of women. And when you look at the book of Acts, Luke was careful to notate all the women who helped Paul. In Romans 16, the lion's share of those names that Paul wrote to the church at Rome was women. And you have distinguished yourself. You started here years ago, an executive producer, and wow, I mean, what's motivated you through 50 different productions that have touched millions?
I love storytelling. I love the stories in people's lives. I love kind of digging those out and putting them up. I often felt that the gift of being a host on Huntley Street was to actually, you know, take a jewel and hold it up to the light and kind of turn it so that people could get the different facets of a person's life. And I think a documentary, if it's focusing on a person's story, often that's what it's about, is kind of just holding it up and twisting it in the light and kind of showing the different facets. And to me, it's all God's story. And I have a few projects, you know, that are always pulling me forward. I love the new beginnings of life. I love the new possibilities of life. I have a few feature film projects that are really important to my heart, one of which is a feature film on Eric Liddell. Oh, cool. I think the follow-up to Chariots of Fire. I've got those kinds of things also on a few documentary projects. There's always something for tomorrow. And I think that's, you know, the way an artist tends to think. It's kind, you're kind of driven forward to the next thing that has your heart and when you want to talk about.
Well, Karen, you make God proud, and you are an inspiration to women everywhere. Keep doing what you're doing, and on the info page of the program is all the information we need. Saturday night, we want to encourage you, make sure you set your television or record it at 7 p.m. on CTS.